All right, folks, this is Marco Palmero. In this video, we're going to be talking about DealFlow, especially for those people who started sourcing businesses for sale by themselves, or maybe they are a search fund or an entrepreneur that is looking at an acquisition to expand his current business. And they're basically doing a lot of the sourcing themselves, or they're handling with a small team. And I'm going to share with you a story that can potentially be very relevant to you, and that can ultimately show you why so many people don't end up buying a business successfully. Now, before we dive into this, I want to ask you a question. If you are a search fund, if you're an entrepreneur looking at businesses for sale, if you are any type of person that is looking at assets on his own, the question is, how much is it costing you not knowing what you don't know? Now, I'm going to say that again. How much is it costing you not knowing what you don't know? I think that's a very important question for you to ask yourself, because many times when I see people that look at companies for sale and that are trying to find deals by themselves, I see a lot of them struggle with problems that are very, I would say, basic in nature, but still they are unable to solve for a variety of different reasons. And independently of how easy the solution might be, they are not open to seek help and guidance and support to kind of address these issues and streamline their process so that they can ultimately achieve the desired outcome, which is finding deals that are good for them and acquire these assets. And I think there are a few reasons behind it. The first is we tend not to seek help when we need it the most, because we feel we know it all, we feel we have it figured out. But also, I feel sometimes people try to self-sabotage themselves. In some instances, they might not even be sure that they have the capabilities of buying a business, and therefore they try to weasel their way out of the solution by saying, well, I need to figure this thing out myself, or I need to take some time to learn these things, and I cannot find outside support to help me through the process. Or maybe just I need to handle everything by myself without getting the support that I need to ultimately find the deals and close the deals. And I think the story I'm about to share with you kind of ties into this last point, and it's all about a guy that came to us a few weeks ago, and then he became our client. And the problem that he was facing was that he was a search fund, first of all, and he was looking at businesses for sale in North America. Now, the challenge he was facing was that he had allocated a lot of time towards finding a deal, and he ultimately got a good transaction into his pipeline. The problem happened next when he first submitted the LOI and he started analyzing the deal, because what he did was he dropped everything he was doing outside of negotiating that deal, because he was fully committed in closing a transaction. So he stopped doing all the things that led him to find that deal and build the pipeline of transactions that he actually needed to source a good quality business. So what happened was, after 5 months of going back and forth with the seller negotiating the transaction, the deal ended up dying. And I'm not going to dive into the specifics of why the deal died, but this person came to us and came to me saying, well, I wasted the last 5 months of my time negotiating this deal and committing all my resources to it. And now that the deal hasn't closed, I'm back to square one again. It's probably going to take me 2-3 months more to rebuild my pipeline, because back in the day, that's the time frame that it took him to get that done. And so he was very concerned about the process, because of course, as a search fund, he has a limited amount of time to execute on, and he wanted to deliver within that time frame. And so again, you might be in this situation. Maybe you're not a search fund, maybe you're just an entrepreneur that is looking to buy a business, but you struggle with similar issues. Maybe you're an individual that is looking to buy a company, and you've been through these ups and downs when it comes to sourcing. Deals may come, then you start negotiating them. You need to, deviate your attention from the sourcing process. And if that transaction doesn't close for one reason or another, then everything needs to start all over again. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I share with this person because, of course, that's confidential. But what I want to discuss with you is this problem of consistency when it comes to finding deals and finding transactions. It is important to understand that the sourcing process takes a long time, and finding quality deals takes a long time. At the same time, it is very time consuming to negotiate a transaction properly. And so many times I see people that struggle with this challenge. They are juggling between multiple tasks. All of a sudden they find a deal that appears to be a good fit for them, and they decide to go all in on it because they feel that if they can get it done, they accomplish the desired outcome. The problem is, shit happens, and a lot of deals might not close for a variety of different reasons, which is why it is mandatory to have a pipeline of opportunities available at all time. And that for a variety of different reasons. The first is what I just mentioned in the story. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. The second is you want to have options so that you can be more aggressive when you negotiate with a seller, because think of it as a option that you have. If you're sitting on a table with somebody that has only one business to sell, chances are he's going to try to get the most out of it, and rightfully so. On the flip side, if you only have one opportunity to buy that business, and maybe that's the only opportunity you have, you're going to have a lot of concerns about that deal not going through, and subconsciously you're going to be more, I would say, keen to let things slip and maybe let the other side get its way into the negotiation, which is something that can prevent you from getting the best possible deal, and ultimately also kill the transaction in some instances, like the story I just told you about. So having options enables you to ultimately negotiate from a position of strength, because you can say to everybody, listen, we have a series of opportunities. We are not gonna accept certain types of behavior. If you don't like what we are offering you, that's fine. We're gonna move on to the next opportunity. That creates a very strong argument for you as a buyer, independently of whether you're a search fund, an entrepreneur, or whatever. But the point is, having a pipeline helps you create leverage into the transaction. Having a pipeline also builds consistency, which is something that I'm, stressing a lot in most of my videos. The objective is to have deals available at all times so that you don't face these challenges where you basically have only one opportunity, and if that fails, you wasted half a year for no reason. You want to constantly have deals available so that even if something goes wrong, God forbid, you have new deals to refill your pipeline and not waste time. You can immediately reinitiate a negotiation. In some cases, you can even negotiate multiple deals at the same time. And that is something that, we work with a lot of people when we either source deals on their behalf or we help them build their own infrastructure for sourcing deals, because then we help them automate the process as much as possible so that they don't need to be involved too much in the sourcing exercise. They can free up their time, and that time that is now free can go into negotiating more deals. And so there's a switch between the time that they allocate towards finding the deals that moves towards closing the deals. And that is really what creates leverage for them, because they can negotiate more deals, as I just said, but also get to the transaction they want to close faster. And so this story kind of showcased how having a pipeline is kind of mandatory for anybody, and not having it nailed down can kill most of your processes, can waste a ton of time for you, for your team, for whoever is involved in the transaction. And so if you don't have a pipeline nailed down, if you don't have a system to consistently find deals and refill your funnel at all times, then you're going to be in trouble. And if you're watching this video, then there is a chance we can help you with that. You can check the link below. We have a couple of different solutions where we either do everything for you or work with you to build a pipeline so that you don't face these challenges anymore. But the point is, the story I share with you wants to emphasize one of the biggest problems when it comes to deal flow, and that is the time that it's needed to close a deal and all the possible challenges that can happen in between that can ultimately kill that transaction. So we're talking about risk minimization here. We want to minimize risk at all stages. In order for you to maximize the effectiveness of your time and the efforts that you put into the process, my perspective is building a pipeline becomes key, because then fundamentally the opportunity risk is not in question anymore. You always have deals available, and you just need to go through the due diligence process, analyze them, and make sure they check out so that you can then submit an offer and potentially buy that company. But from a sourcing perspective, you are not going to have any challenge. You're not going to have any slowdowns. You're not going to have any issues whatsoever in having to ramp up your pipeline or switching your attention between multiple tasks, because you're going to have a system that brings you deals, and you can then allocate all your time towards what matters most, which is closing the transactions. So if you're a search fund entrepreneur looking for acquisitions, even an investor that wants to buy his own business, or an individual that is looking to buy a business, this can really save you 5 months of time ultimately, because if you just listen to this point, just listen to the story, avoid the issue that this person made, and then create a predictable system for finding deal flow. Hopefully that was helpful for you. If you want to get additional help from somebody external that has been through the process and knows how to source deals in basically any sector in any country, check the link below. I'm going to have some resources for you. And yeah, this is pretty much it.